Alright, what's up guys, Toasty here, Get Burnt Today. I'm going to be talking more about Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and today I have somewhat of a video that isn't really discussing any actual news or anything new about the game. I'm really just going to be talking mainly about what I think about the game so far. This is pretty much just going to be me talking about what I think about everything that's been announced, pretty much all up to this point, and what I think of the game as a whole. Since it is releasing next month, there probably isn't going to be a whole ton of more info that's going to be released. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of the stuff that we haven't seen yet, but honestly, in full, we're probably not going to be getting a huge amount of surprises from here on out, so I thought that this would probably be a good spot to actually talk about my full thoughts about the game so far in terms of everything, in terms of its story, combat, gameplay, all that stuff. So, yeah. Before I start, obviously a lot of you are probably going to say, oh yeah, he's just going to kiss its ass. Well, the thing about Xenoverse is that I played Xenoverse's network test. I didn't play all of the network tests. I only played the English one, or the American one, because I didn't know how to get into the Japanese one, or I just couldn't get into it, because I even signed up for the stuff and I still couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into any of the other betas, obviously, so sadly for me, I only was stuck with the American one. And obviously there are people who have had a lot more experience with Xenoverse, such as Ron Style, Thundershot, all of them who have played multiple betas. I've only played the network test, even though I keep calling it a beta, it's a network test, and I honestly enjoyed my time a lot with it. Those of you who came to my live stream on the day that it actually came out saw that I was really excited and happy to actually be playing the game, mainly because it was the new DBZ game. It was really fun for me, honestly. I thought that it was really fun to play. I thought that it was really cool. I thought that it could probably be the new age of Dragon Ball Z games in terms of at least it being the best one since Raging Blast 2, like without a doubt, because honestly, even if you did like Battle of Z, you cannot argue that that game is unpolished and it is very, very, very basic. You cannot argue with that. It's just, that's the truth. And honestly, I think that this, in terms of quality and in terms of how good the gameplay and all that stuff is, I think that this is the best that we've had in a while. So I think that, honestly, even if you don't like the game and you don't like its gameplay, it's hard to admit that the game itself is not probably the best that we've had in a couple of years. And I think that based on what I played the entire day, because I definitely played the entire day, I didn't stop at all. I played through like straight all the entirety of the day, and I think that the gameplay itself, obviously a lot of you are mad about the gameplay. A lot of you say that you don't like the gameplay, but I say if you didn't play the network test, give it a chance at least. Wait for a demo to come out, because the demo's probably gonna end up coming out like probably after the game is released or something like that. Honestly, just give it a chance, because I know that a lot of you are probably saying, oh, it doesn't look fun to play by watching videos and stuff on it, but it is a lot more fun to play than it is to watch. I myself can say, I think that Xenoverse itself, especially if it's played by somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, which is most of the gameplay that's been shown. Like, a lot of the gameplay that's been shown is people who don't know what they're doing, and the only way that you really know about this is if you've seen people who know what they're doing in gameplay. And it's kind of crazy, because all of the gameplay from like Paris Game Week, from Comic-Con and all that stuff, the game itself had gotten better because it was a recent build, but the gameplay itself was played by people who didn't know how to play the game. The network test, all of the gameplay you've seen of the network test isn't good. You know why? Because those people don't know how to play the game, because we've only gotten to play it for one day. Obviously, people who are more advanced, like Thundershot and stuff, they know how to play it a little bit more because they've played multiple network tests, so they know how to play it a lot more. I honestly enjoyed my time a lot with it because I thought that it was just really fun. That's just like all I could say, because the only thing that I really look for a DBZ game is fun. That's all I look for, really. I do obviously look at story and all that stuff. Yeah, if it has a really good story, that's obviously a plus and all that. Doesn't have a story, honestly, I'm not going to be bothered with it, obviously, because I've said my stance on that before, because I think that stories in Dragon Ball Z games are kind of getting stale now, that the fact that every single one is kind of the same, until this one, really. And I'm glad that we're getting a different one for this as well. That's just something that I'm going to sneak in there. I'm really glad that we're getting a different story now, especially with some stuff that's actually going into Dragon Ball Online territory with Toa and Mira and stuff, because a lot of people didn't get a chance to play that game because it was only Korea. Well, I guess you could say it was only Korea, but it was only in Korean, so a lot of people either didn't understand what they were doing when they were playing it, or they just didn't play it. And since a lot of people didn't get a chance to play it, it is cool that we're getting those characters and all that other stuff in the game. And the character creation, in my opinion, obviously it was limited in the beta because it was a network test, and it just really wasn't huge, but there was still a lot of people that did look pretty different, and I think that that was really cool. The fact that you could only make Saiyans and Namekians and everybody was still looking pretty different. The Namekians also, especially their stuff, their customization is really, really cool, and the past things that I've seen of the customization, especially the leak stuff, is really good in my opinion. I think that that is really nice. I think the character customization will be really rich and really cool, but a lot of people disagree, but you know, we'll just have to see until the game comes out and you can make your opinion valid then. But honestly, for me, I think that Xenoverse itself is a very good game in terms of how good I enjoyed the network test, or how much I enjoyed the network test, and how I've seen that the game has actually improved, because a lot of people said the game wouldn't improve from the network test, which was a June build, by the way. If you guys didn't know that, it was a June build in the network test, and now with the current gameplay, obviously we haven't seen a whole lot of it. We saw the live stream, and the live stream itself, as I've said before, was played obviously by someone who's played the game quite a bit, but they didn't really do that much advanced combos. They had like 1 or 2 battles with advanced combos, but everything else they were trying to kind of explain everything to people, which really didn't work out as well as you would hope. But honestly, I think that the game itself, especially after learning how to play a lot more, because the thing is with Xenoverse is that you don't just get on the game and instantly are good at it, like with Raging Blast or Budokai Tenkaichi. A lot of people are asking if it's like Raging Blast or Budokai Tenkaichi. No, it's not. It's a completely new game, or at least a completely different game than those two. Those two are kind of not the exact same. Obviously, a lot of people are going to get mad at me if I say that, but they are similar. Raging Blast and Budokai Tenkaichi are very similar. Xenoverse is a completely different monster from those two, so it's something that we're going to be experiencing for kind of a new experience, and that I think is good because it's going to be giving us a fresh feeling that's not going to feel like we're getting a recycled version of something that came out in 2008. So honestly, I'm glad about that, and it kind of feels pretty different. It feels a lot more different than any other Dragon Ball Z game, really. I said before in the past that it's like Budokai 3 but in 3D, but it's kind of not. It's really different, actually, because Budokai 3 itself is a very different game from Xenoverse, because there's not a lot of like air combos where you jump in the air and stuff, because obviously in Budokai 3 you don't really jump in the air, you just hit somebody back and forth and it will end up in the air, but there aren't a lot of air combos, you know what I mean? It's like there's not a lot of ways to combo people in the air that are very different from the ground, and the fact that it's in 3D obviously changes the entirety of the actual game, and I honestly think that it's really good. I just think that, in my personal opinion, I like it a lot. A lot of you are saying that I really am just like kissing up to the game or damage control and all that other stuff. I just like the game. That's it. I just like the game. I'm not being paid to like the game or anything. I just think that this game is a chance for Dragon Ball Z games to actually make a comeback in terms of how good they are. Obviously, Xenoverse is not perfect. We all know this. You have to have common sense to know that this game is not perfect. It's pretty easy to see. This game is obviously nowhere near perfect, but I think that it is a good first step to a good amount of Dragon Ball Z games that are not just trash, like Dragon Ball Z for Connect and Ultimate Tenkaichi. Obviously, Ultimate Tenkaichi itself, in terms of presentation, was really good, although the gameplay was lacking so badly that it just ruined the entirety of the game for everybody. And I think that now, after all of the dark age of Dragon Ball Z games, a lot of people would say it started with Raging Blast 1, a lot of people would say it started with BT1, a lot of people would say it started with Ultimate Tenkaichi, but hopefully, I just hope that it's going to be the first one to not be a failure in terms of how good the game is. Obviously, it's going to disappoint some people. Some people are too hyped for their own good. Obviously, hype itself, I was going to make a video about this a long time ago, but hype does kill video games badly. Hype is a pretty awful thing if you think about it, because you get a high expectation for a game, and then when the game itself is average, or it is okay, or pretty good, it'll still dash your hopes, because what you were expecting was too good to ever be actually met. So hype does kill video games, and I'm kind of probably one of the small reasons for hype kind of poisoning Xenoverse, and for that I apologize if you really got hyped and you got disappointed or anything like that. But Xenoverse itself, in my opinion, is the first step to a amount of good DBZ games. The story, in my opinion, is fresh and new and good. I'm glad that we're not getting the same Dragon Ball Z story over and over and over again like we have for the past few years. I honestly have not been very satisfied with the Dragon Ball Z story. The most that I've been satisfied outsiders with stuff like what if stuff like RB1 and stuff like that. But like getting the same story of something that I already know is just it didn't entertain me. It's just my personal opinion. A lot of you love how they could do different types of ways for the Dragon Ball Z story, and I'm not like dashing your hopes or anything like that. I'm just saying, honestly, in my personal opinion, I think that having a different story, especially including stuff from a game that a lot of people in America didn't get to play, like Dragon Ball Online, I think that's a great idea. I think that was an amazing idea on Dimps' end, and I think that that sort of thing really is cool. And obviously, the rest of the hype is probably coming from the fact that Dimps is making the game. So, for those of you who don't know, Dimps is the creators of the Budokai series, the Shin Budokai series, and pretty much every 2D Dragon Ball game that you could ever think of, besides Super DBZ, Dimps has made. And honestly, that has given them a really good reputation with DBZ fans. And now that also Burst Limit, obviously. And now, people are kind of scared because, first of all, Burst Limit was unfinished. And Burst Limit itself, even though it was unfinished, was a good game. In terms of presentation and gameplay, was good. The fact that it didn't go through the entirety of the Buu Saga, it didn't even start the Buu Saga, and it didn't do a lot of the stuff that it could have done to make it like a Budokai 4 in terms of how good it is. They messed it up because they kind of let the game have to get released before they were able to actually finish it. So the game itself kind of lost a lot of traction with Dragon Ball Z fans, but Burst Limit itself is still a good game, and if you haven't picked it up, I recommend that you do. Although, I will say that Xenoverse itself is not perfect. I will say that. It is not perfect. Hell, it may not even be extremely excellent. But I think that it is a good start to new Dragon Ball Z games actually being good. And the thing that I've said in my video before, but I'll say it again, Dragon Ball Xenoverse is the first of a series, or at least I would hope that it's the first of a series. I hope it's not a standalone game. If it does well, I would hope that they would make iterations after it, like Xenoverse 2, or they don't even have to call it Xenoverse 2, but a somewhat sequel to Xenoverse that may be under a different name that has a different sort of dynamic to it, that actually has more content than Xenoverse. Because if they make a game that's good, right, and they get a lot of sales, they get a lot of people who love the game, then they can make another game. And that's actually going to be the first time for a while that wasn't on the handheld consoles that Dimps has made a actual series for Dragon Ball Z games that hasn't just been one game and that's over. Because Burst Limit obviously just didn't have any sequels. A lot of people are still wanting a Burst Limit sequel, but we haven't gotten any real sequels from Dimps for a while since Shin Budokai, and now having it again would be really cool. And I think that having Xenoverse get stuff built onto it would be really, really awesome. And they do have the sort of like space to do it, especially with story as well, because obviously for those of you who play Dragon Ball Online, you guys know about Cell X and a bunch of other stuff that probably won't be included in Xenoverse that could be included in a future installation. So I think that that sort of thing would be amazing. The story is completely new, so it's kind of something that may actually interest a lot of people. Maybe they want to see a continuation, and if Dimps actually ends up making it, and hopefully they're not putting everything into this game, because if so, it may not be that great, because, you know, putting everything into one game, not being able to make future iterations, may sour it a little bit. But I just hope that they're able to make future iterations, because that's how BT3 became known as one of the best, as that's how Budokai 3 became known as one of the best, because the first installation of them was lacking in terms of gameplay mechanics and obviously just presentation overall. Budokai 1, we can't lie, even though it did have amazing cutscenes and amazing story, we cannot lie that it itself, especially because it didn't go through the Buu Saga, was actually not a fully complete game that was completely great for everybody. Then Budokai 2 came along, it updated the combat a little bit, changed the kind of the formula of how things worked in the game, especially with the new story elements. And then Budokai 3 came around, which is pretty much a lot of people's favorite Dragon Ball Z game. Same thing with Budokai Tenkaichi, because Budokai Tenkaichi 1 was not as great as 2 and 3, especially 2. Because 2 had an amazing story mode, and a lot of people actually like 2 over 3, a lot of people like 3 over 2, but that's just me saying that I honestly hope that Xenoverse itself gets a sequel. Please, Dimps, just give me a sequel to Xenoverse. I really just want that, because then I know that the game itself will be a lot more polished and it will be a better product. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. My summary is I liked Xenoverse's network test. I think that it was really good. I cannot wait to play the game in a month, because I am very excited. I honestly cannot wait. Obviously, hype is going to be surging to a lot of people for Xenoverse, and some people will be disappointed with that, although I think personally, in my personal opinion, I think Xenoverse is the first step to a few good Dragon Ball Z games. And yeah, that's all I gotta say for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you all enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit it up with a like. If you didn't, then make sure to tell me in the comments why. And yeah, that's all I gotta say for today, guys. Thank you so much. I will see you all later with more Dragon Ball Xenoverse and all that other stuff related to Dragon Ball and Naruto and all that stuff. So, yep, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all later. Peace out.